In November, the U.S. Navy officially pulled the plug on its ambitious Constellation-class guided missile frigate program. The decision terminated the last 4 ships that had not yet begun construction, while placing the only 2 ships already being built under review. Secretary of the Navy John C. Phelan stated on X, "From day one, I made it clear, I won't spend a dollar if it doesn't strengthen readiness or our ability to win. To keep that promise, we're reshaping how we build and field the fleet, working with industry to deliver warfighting advantage, beginning with a strategic shift away from the Constellation-class frigate program." He added, "The Navy and our industry partners have reached a comprehensive framework that terminates for the Navy's convenience the last 4 ships of the class, which have not begun construction. We greatly value the shipbuilders of Wisconsin and Michigan. While work continues on the first 2 ships, those ships remain under review as we work through this strategic shift." The move signals a major shift in how the Navy intends to modernize and grow its fleet, abandoning one of its most visible medium-sized surface combatant efforts. The cancellation stems from a confluence of problems. In this video, Defense Updates analyzes why has the U.S. Navy canceled Constellation-class guided missile frigate program. Before we proceed, a word on NordVPN, which is one of the most trusted and fastest VPN brand that has a no-log policy validated by Deloitte. NordVPN provides a 256-bit encrypted tunnel that protects your privacy and also enables you to access contents that are blocked based on geolocation. Its threat protection system helps you avoid phishing, scams, and malware. NordVPN application is available for all the major platforms as well as browsers. Get an exclusive NordVPN deal with massive saving by going to nordvpn.com/defense or clicking the link in the description. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The Constellation-class was born in 2020 when the Navy selected Wisconsin-based Fincantieri Marinette Marine, FMM, to produce a version of the European FREMM frigate tailored for U.S. requirements. Initially, the plan appeared straightforward and low risk. Use a proven hull, retain core design elements, and adapt sensors, weapons, and systems for U.S. naval standards. The first ship, USS Constellation, FFG-62, was laid down in August 2022 with a projected delivery date in 2026. However, what followed was design management chaos instead of smooth adaptation. Rather than minor tweaks, the Constellation ended up being heavily reworked, to the point that only about 15% of the original FREMM design remained unchanged. The Navy introduced extensive configuration changes, altered superstructures, different propulsion requirements, new generators and electronics layouts, and significantly upgraded weapons and sensor suites. Meanwhile, the projected commonality with FREMM, intended to reduce risk and speed delivery, collapsed. A 2025 Government Accountability Office, GAO, report highlighted this instability, criticizing the U.S. Navy for certifying the design's functional completion even as major elements remained in flux. Construction proceeded on an incomplete and evolving blueprint, contrary to best practices in ship design, which call for finishing detailed blueprints before block construction begins. The result? Persistent rework, repeated adjustments, and a ship increasingly divorced from its parent design. One of the most concrete outcomes of the design instability was weight growth. As systems were upgraded and changes piled up, the Constellation-class gained more than 10% in mass, pushing it far beyond original tolerances. This induced serious performance trade-offs. A heavier ship is slower, less maneuverable, burns more fuel, and has a reduced capacity for future upgrades. For example, the U.S. Navy abandoned the FREMM's proven cod-lag propulsion arrangement and instead required a redesigned machinery plant built around the larger, more powerful Rolls-Royce MT-30 gas turbine, new reduction gears, and enlarged U.S. standard electric generators. This forced a complete reconfiguration of the engine rooms, altered weight distribution, and complicated acoustic quieting measures essential for anti-submarine warfare. Another example of major change is that the U.S. Navy replaced the European combat system with an Aegis-derived architecture centered on the ANSPY-6 V3 radar and the Combat S-21 Combat Management Suite, alongside U.S. Mark 41 vertical launch cells, and American electronic warfare and communication systems. These heavier and more power-intensive systems required redesigning the ship's mass structure, modifying power and cooling networks, and reallocating internal volume to house larger processors and EM-shielded equipment racks. As weight mounted, the Navy found itself considering a reduction in the ship's speed requirement just to compensate for the added mass. That suggests the original performance expectations for a fast, flexible, multi-mission frigate were no longer realistic. The heavily modified Constellation had begun to resemble a compromised halfway point. Neither a simple FREM nor a fully modern medium combatant, but an overburdened ship that might deliver lower than expected performance in real-world conditions. Given this massive drift from the original design intent, the anticipated benefits of a low-risk, off-the-shelf frigate vanished. Instead, the Constellation became a very customized and far more expensive ship. Because design was still being finalized well after construction started, progress slowed to a crawl. The first ship was only about 10% complete as of early 2025. Delivery slipped from 2026 to late 2029, a 3-year delay. Meanwhile, unit cost estimates also surged. What was originally billed as a roughly $1 billion to $1.1 billion frigate, assumed to benefit from economies of scale, now looked more like a $1.4 billion warship even before full production ramp-up. Multiple cost and scheduling hits placed the Constellation program under mounting scrutiny from Congress and within the U.S. Navy. For a program intended to build perhaps 20 ships over time, the idea of rolling out expensive, delayed vessels was becoming untenable, especially at a time when the Navy was under pressure to expand the fleet as quickly as possible. Beyond technical and budget issues, a broader strategic reassessment weighed heavily. The U.S. Navy is under growing pressure to expand its battle force to counter rapidly increasing shipbuilding in potential peer adversaries, most notably China. Relying on a handful of slow-to-deliver, expensive frigates no longer fit the urgency of the challenge. This is clearly communicated. In his announcement, Secretary of the Navy John Phelan framed the cancellation as part of a shift toward rapid procurement and fleet expansion at speed, prioritizing quantity, readiness, and adaptability over bespoke, slow-building ship designs. The U.S. Navy intends to reallocate funding and industrial capacity toward other ship classes that can be built more quickly and at scale. The need to ramp up fleet numbers, potentially to meet goals associated with Indo-Pacific deterrence or high-tempo operations, outweighed the benefit of keeping Constellation alive.